Hello dear tea friends from around the world. Welcome to a new tea class with me, Stéphane Erler. I'm the founder of the Tea Masters blog and the tea-masters.com tea boutique. Today we are going to do the third tea class of this semester. It's going to be a comparison between Jinxuan Oolong and Qingxin Oolong, both from Alishan. These two are the first and the second teas we saw in the so far this year in the last two classes. So it's going to be very interesting to better understand this cultivar, because these are two cultivars that you find in high mountains, and very often really it's kind of the basic thing that you need to know to distinguish between them when you are a fan of high mountain oolongs, so that you don't look like a fool if you tell the seller, oh, this is a Qingxin, actually it's a Jinxuan. He could then pass some lower quality teas to you. So it's a very important thing to know, and to work on your taste buds to really appreciate tea. You must be able to distinguish between two tea cultivars, and today I'm going to teach you how. Before we start, a couple of other announcements. I've noticed that Facebook has announced that they're going to stop doing classes events. So this means, but they will still allow events, so it might a bit change on the technical part. I'm not so sure. This will take place at the end of October, so next week we're still okay, but maybe in the future there might be some different settings. And to prevent this problem in the future, please register to my YouTube channel. We are approaching 1,000 subscribers. As soon as I have 1,000 subscribers, I'm allowed to do live broadcast on YouTube directly. So this would really help me if you can bring the number of subscribers on the channel to 1,000, so that if I cannot do the classes on Facebook, I could actually do them on YouTube directly. So please, if you have not subscribed, give me a subscription to my YouTube channel. And I had another idea. Since I'm making some notes every week about the classes I'm giving, what I will do, and the classes are based on a sampler set that you can find in my boutique, tea-masters.com, under the category samplers. There's a Tea Masters sampler set for the fall semester 2022, where I have assembled 6+1 samples of oolongs, which is the subject of this semester. And as soon as I will have finished this series of courses this semester, what I will do for all the people who have purchased this sampler, I will send them a booklet of all the notes that I have on these classes. So later on, if you want to refresh your memory, you don't have to rewind all the videos to watch the videos again. You can simply go to the booklet, and you will get it will be in a PDF format, of course, and then you will have all the important information about the class during this semester. Now let's go back to our comparison. We want to compare two teas, and to do that, it's very important that we compare two teas that have very few differences, and that we only focus on the one difference that we want to compare. So in this case, we are comparing two high mountain oolongs from the same region, even the same village. So Alishan, Jinxuan, it's from the same season, spring. Well, one is spring 21 and the other one spring 22. But this does not have such a big impact, because when the teas are kept vacuum sealed, especially oolongs, they are very stable. So I don't discern any loss of freshness between spring 2021 and 22, especially 6 months after the spring season. So maybe just when the tea are just made, when they just come freshly from the mountain, you can sense an additional sense of freshness. But after 6 months, the 22nd is very close to the 21. They are very similar in terms of freshness thanks to the vacuum seal and to the good storage condition in a cool and dark and dry place. So the only difference between these two teas is one is Qingxin and one is Jinxuan. The oxidation level is very similar because they are both made into high mountain oolongs. They are both bowl-shaped, as you can see. So we are going to learn a lot about the Jinxuan cultivar, because basically the only difference between these two teas is the cultivar. They are even made by the same farmer, so he will process in a very similar way both teas, even though he has to adapt a little bit to the type of tea, and even a high mountain oolong, you can always move a little bit the oxidation level more or less depending on the taste of your customers and or your own preference style for the maker. So of course it's never exactly the same thing, but this is really as close as we get to a perfect comparison, because really the only difference is the cultivar. Now there are three methods of comparing. I'm going to show them quickly. I've done a longer video about it, so I don't want to make this part too long. First we have the competition set. A competition set is this vessel for brewing. This is where you'll put the brew, and you have also a little plate where you look at the leaves. This is what is used as one set for most tea competitions in Taiwan. Another method of brewing and then another important thing, what they are using is 3 grams 6 minutes. This is the standard for brewing in a competition. 3 grams of tea only and 6 minutes in this vessel, and then it's put out. Another way of brewing for evaluating tea, for testing tea, is actually simply to use a tea bowl, or it can be any kind of soup bowl, and then you can use also 3 grams, or actually farmers when they test it, they don't necessarily weigh their leaves. They take more or less, fill the bottom with 1 layer, and then boiling water almost to the top. So they even don't look exactly how much water they use, simply to the top. And then the way they test it is, once it's brewing, the leaves stay inside, they are never taken out, and after the leaves have started to open up, they start to smell, and continuously sometimes take some tea with a spoon in a teacup, and that's how they are going to evaluate the tea. Now, since not everybody has competition set, I was thinking we can do actually the same thing with a Gaiwan. But I'm going to use this to have a look at it. So I'm taking this away because I think it's easier to test with for everybody to test with a Guy 1, since this is a vessel that most people have. If you don't have this, actually you could also use a Guy 1, so a second Guy 1 as your bowl where you look at the color of the brew. So let's take this away. And so basically I'm going to do the method of the competition set using 3 grams and roughly 6 minutes, but using Guy 1 instead of using the competition set, since this is something most people don't have. And if you don't have such a bowl, actually what you could do is simply with 2 Guy 1s, you can also do it like this. Of course, there are 2 ways of there are another alternative on how you want to compare your tea. You can compare them together at the same time. This is how competition are done. But you could also compare the teas one after another. So first brew one and then brew the other. Now I think there are some benefits in comparing directly the 2 teas, so I want to demonstrate this method. Let's preheat our Guy 1s. Now that the weather has come down, the temperatures have come down, it's very important that you really preheat your tea vessels very well. So, and while the Guy 1s are preheating, we are going to start already the comparison by doing a visual comparison of the leaves and see what we can tell from the leaves in terms of color, of size. Now what's interesting, when you look at it, I measured 3 grams in both, but when you look at the leaves, it looks like Jinxuan has more leaves than Qingxin. Actually the weight is the same. So this already tells us that the leaves of Qingxin are much more dense and that these leaves must be lighter because it looks like there are more leaves, that they take more space. So there is probably more density in the Qingxin leaves. This is also in line with what we learned. The Qingxin leaves seem a little bit greener, the Jinxuan a little bit darker, darker green. There's a bit more variation of color in the Qingxin than in the Jinxuan, but color is very often linked to oxidation levels, so this might not be a very good point to understand the differences. And yeah, definitely the Qingxin Oolong leaves seem to have a little bit more character. The Jinxuan seem have a more smoother surface. The surface of the Qingxin is a little bit more going up and down. Second comparison is smelling the dry leaves. Always a 2-step smell. First, a short smell with your nose. You exhale not on the leaves, but you exhale away. That's why I'm taking the leaves away, so that I would not exhale and put moisture on the leaves. Both have a lot of freshness and lightness, spring sense. Here it's really very similar, which is actually a good sign that it shows that it comes from, it has a similar smells because it comes from the same mountain, and this mountain, since leaves they catch and fixate the sense of the mountains. So here we have the very similar sense, so that's quite normal and shows that really these two teas are both from Alishan. Okay, now we're going to brew them. Making sure that the water is really coming to a boil, and waiting, because last week what the classes showed is how important the water temperature is to open up the leaves in the Gaiwan. So we really want to use the highest temperature to get most of the flavors out of the leaves. But it's a bit cooler now. We have some rain in Taipei. It's cloudy, and temperatures are starting to come under 30 degrees Celsius, which might probably sound still very high, but here this is almost the first feel of autumn. Okay, I've given them a good dance. Here too, and I can stop. I'm looking this time at the watch for the first time. Usually I don't, but to do this brewing in a standardized way, I will try to do it around 6 minutes. In the meantime, I also want to tell you today I chose to use the black side of my chabu. All my chabu have a second face which is black, and this comes really handy now, because on when you see pictures of places where they do tea testing, you will probably notice that the furniture and everything is black. Really, this is helping the light to get focused on the white porcelain and where the tea is, and therefore black helps your eyes to really have a better vision on the leaves and especially on the brew. I remember when I visited the Taiwan Research and Extension Station in Yangmei in Taoyuan County. Their room for testing the teas has some light coming a little bit from above, and everything was black, and this really made the tea brew stand out when it was brewed in this setting. So black is going to help you already because it's one uniform color. You're not distracted by patterns, by different colors, but also because this will make the porcelain and the tea brew stand out. I'm preheating my teacup, my tea spoon also. Hopla. It's super hot, but the leaves are already quite open, and we continue for another 2 minutes roughly, and then we'll pour here. And the first thing that we are going to do is to have a look at the leaves. Since the brew will be very, very hot, maybe too hot to taste. I forgot to take some, to get a cup to drink. I can also preheat my cup a bit. Should I have 2 cups? Okay. Good idea. Let's have a second cup. You can also use 1 cup for all your teas, for the only 1 cup, but then you have to rinse it a bit in between. So if I've with 2 cups, it's still doable. It can become a challenge if you have 10 different teas. And actually, tea judges for the Dongding competition, they are evaluating 100 up to 100 different teas at the same time. So this is really then a very difficult job. And then they only use one cup. Okay, we are almost there. 1 more minute. The teas are quite good. So far, in terms of color, a little bit greener color for the Qingxin, a little bit darker color for the Jinxuan. The Jinxuan also looks like more leaves, and therefore the Qingxin more concentration. This is what I was explaining. Jinxuan was created to have higher yields for the same surface of land, so the leaves are larger, and therefore it was not surprising to see that there would be more leaves of Jinxuan for the same amount of grams. Okay, we're roughly there. Now, I usually would have even a timer for this, but my timer isn't on my camera, so it's not available. With the Gaiwan, we can already start to smell the lid. And since I've poured in 1 Gaiwan after another, I'm going to empty 1 Gaiwan after another. You could empty them with 2 hands at the same time, but actually, since you did not fill them at the same time with 2 kettles, this would mean that one has a shorter brew than the other. Yep. So you see there's always water at the end. It comes down when you let it rest. So here also a bit less. But don't forget to empty the Gaiwans very well. These last drops contain really the most flavors. And like this, yeah, perfect. Okay. A quick smell. At least we can check that the leaves have really opened up very well, completely, in both cases. So that's also why we have the two brews, and you can see they are very similar in terms of color and therefore in terms of oxidation level. I would say Jinxuan seems to be slightly darker, a darker yellow. It seems to be slightly less transparent, and in terms of shininess it's similar, but so maybe slightly more, slightly darker is Jinxuan. Okay, now after viewing the color, we can start to fill our cup with each tea. And so to smell the tea before we are going to drink it, there are several ways of smelling it. You can smell already the lid of the gaiwan. See some differences. Really the professionals in the tea mountains, they use a spoon and they smell the back of the spoon. A lot of finesse here. Here the smell is a bit less, feels a bit less natural, feels yeah, there's almost like not completely plastic, but you feel it's not, it reminds you a bit less of nature and maybe more of yeah, like a magazine with the paper is glossy paper, the smell of glossy paper. But there are also flowers and yeah, orchid. Here it's really only flowers. Okay, so here in terms of smell, a little bit more purity, more flowers on the Qingxin, and a little bit more glossy paper smell on the Jinxuan. Of course, these are my words. What is interesting for you is to do this comparison at home and find your own words, what these two smells evoke for you, and try to put words on them. It can be probably different words than mine, but and then try to remember these two smells. Now we can taste. And Qingxin. The notes seem to be a little bit darker in Jinxuan. Flowery spring, but slightly darker, and the taste then is very smooth and sweet, but a little bit flat, I would say. And here it starts very light, like a noti, and very flowery. and you feel a little more mouthfeel and a longer sweet aftertaste in lingering on the tongue with Qingxin. These are, for me, the big differences. So we have tasted the brew. We have also tried to focus on the throat. Both are quite smooth, but the Qingxin had also a little bit more aftertaste. In terms of body feel, it makes me comfortable and warm, starting to sweat. And now we can also do what we say, smell the cold cup, the empty cup, to try to smell the cold scent. So maybe you have to wait a little bit. Still, the cups are a bit warm, because smells are very powerful when they are hot. The hotter the brew, the more smells come out of it. Actually, this is something that you do not so much, to smell the brews from these cups. What you do much more is to smell it indirectly or when you're drinking it. So let's smell the cold cup. And sweet, very sweet. And here, a bit more refined, I would say. More finesse, more elegance. Here is a bit more in your face, but this one has much more finesse, I feel. Okay, and let's not forget to do one thing that many people do forget to do, is really to look at the open leaves. So to do this, we're going to empty the guy one. We can do this on their trays. Look at try to find some leaves that have opened up very well. Okay, here is a good example for the Jinxuan. So we can see the stem cut but a bit torn, so it was really harvested by hand. We can see there are 3 large leaves on this stem and a bud in the middle. All the leaves are very smooth. There are no huangpian, there are no bitter leaves. And what else do we see? We notice that the edges of the Jinxuan are quite very apparent. It's quite dramatic, the way that it's indented. The leaf, this large leaf at the bottom is really quite large. Now let's have a look at something similar in the Qingxin Oolong. Okay, this is a good example, because this one also has 3 leaves on one stem, but here we have a better view of the bud. The 3rd leaf is much smaller than the Jinxuan leaf, as you can see here. The Jinxuan leaf, and here the 3rd Qingxin Oolong leaf. So maybe 1/3, 1/4 in terms of size. These leaves are also all very supple. The stem is also torn, which means it was harvested by hand. It seems to be a little bit softer than the Jinxuan stem, and on the edges of the leaf, the indenting is not much smoother, is not as dramatic. I even notice some oxidation level, some oxidation on the edges of the leaves. Here not so much. Here we have a little bit, the leaves are a little bit more yellow actually in color. Here they are more green in color also. But really the size, so of course don't compare the the leaf on the top with the leaf on the bottom. Try to compare leaves that are located at a similar position to really compare them, and then you will see Jinxuan leaves are much larger than Qingxin Oolong leaves, and the shape of the edges is much more dramatic than Qingxin. These are big differences. And then you can do another cold smell of the empty Gaiwans. A bit darker, and this one feels so much more natural. Really very easy to say which one I would prefer. Definitely it's this one, but Jinxuan is not bad at all, and especially the prices can be much lower. Like this one was is right now $21.25 US for 150 gram, whereas Qingxin from Alishan is $35 for 150 gram. So it comes with a premium, but in terms of scents and in terms of aftertaste, it also does have this premium. We see the leaves are much smaller, which means they concentrate more flavors in a smaller size, which is why also when in the dry leaves we saw that they were much smaller compared to Jinxuan. Okay, thank you very much for watching this video. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it, and we will continue next week with a study of Qingxin Oolong from Shaninxi. Thank you.